These two breads are inspired by the Turkish Ramazan pidesi, and they are both made with exactly the same dough. The only difference between them is the shaping method. The more ornate one on the left is shaped similarly to the Afghan naan roghani, which I posted a couple years ago, but the one on the right is made with the Turkish Ramadan pide shaping method. They both turn out extremely soft, slightly sweet, and full of delicious olive oil flavor. Tackle either one of them, or make them both, and decide which one you like best. If you are a beginner, or you just want to make a very simple bread, then the one on the right will be the one for you. Let's look at what we'll need to make these beauties. We'll need some white bread flour, yeast, salt, sugar, olive oil, an egg yolk, which is optional but it does make the bread extremely soft, and some water. For topping, we'll make a paste using olive oil, the leftover egg white, and yogurt. If you don't want to use egg, replace it with more yogurt. And last but not least, we'll need some seeds to sprinkle on top. I'm using white and black sesame seeds. When it comes to the equipment, we'll need the tray with some non-stick baking paper, a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, a temperature probe, and a brush. Now let's get the topping out of the way first. Combine the egg white, the olive oil, and the yogurt in a small bowl and whisk them together. This will make the glue that will make the seeds stick to the bread. It will also make the crust nice and shiny. As you whisk it, it will develop a texture kind of similar to mayonnaise, and you can keep it in the fridge for quite some time. It will hold up pretty well. I made this a day before I made the bread, and it didn't even split. And once the topping is done, pop it in the fridge for later. Let's move on to making the dough. My kitchen was relatively cool on the day of baking, so I decided to warm up my water to make the dough rise quicker. You can find out everything about temperature control in the Principles of Baking playlist. Okay, grab a large bowl, pour the water into it, add the yeast, the salt, the olive oil, the sugar, the egg, and then give everything a good mix. You want to dissolve the salt, sugar, and the yeast completely. Once you're happy with the mix, add the final ingredient, the white bread flour. Then grab your dough scraper and mix it to the dough. I was aiming for a final dough temperature of around 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. If your dough turns out warmer, it will ferment more rapidly. If it turns out cooler, it will take longer. Adjust the fermentation times accordingly. Or place the bowl in a warmer or cooler area to speed it up or slow it down. We are not cold fermenting for once, so this will be a relatively quick recipe. After you've mixed your dough, give it a fold, place it in a clean bowl and take its temperature. At this temperature, the bulk fermentation took 2 hours, and of course we'll punctuate it with a fold halfway through. So cover up the dough, let it ferment for 1 hour, and then give it a fold. It is slightly sticky, so the best thing to do is wet your hands, wet your dough scraper with water, release the dough from the bowl, and then pick it up and fold it in the air. Fold the sides down and push them back up into the middle. Go around in a circle until the dough ball is nice and tight, then place it back into the bowl, cover it up, leave it to ferment for 1 more hour. And now it should really start puffing up. And this is looking good. Okay, bulk fermentation is over. Let's move on to the next step, which is getting ready for the final proof. The final shaping will be done just before baking. This step doesn't involve much. All you need to do is dust your dough with flour, place it on a piece of baking paper and flatten it out. You can make it as thick or as thin as you like. After flattening the dough, cover it up, leave it to proof for 45 minutes. Towards the end of the final proof, switch on the oven to 170 degrees Celsius or 340 degrees Fahrenheit, fan on. If your oven doesn't have a fan, go for 190 Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit. Alright, now it's final shaping time. Lightly dust the dough with flour so your fingers don't stick to it, because fingers is what we'll use for shaping it. The basic idea here is to press lines into the dough to decorate it. You can use your fingertips, you can use the sides of your hands. You can do various designs, more intricate ones or more basic ones. I decided to go with the classic here, with the ring around the edge and the diamond pattern in the middle. But you can do whatever you like. It is your bread. You'll be looking at it, so make it appealing to you. Okay, next step is to brush the topping paste onto the dough. Be sure to cover the whole surface. And then finally, take the seeds and sprinkle them on top. Classic recipes don't use black sesame seeds, they use nigella seeds. Those have a strong flavor, so if you want to use them, use a little bit less. Okay, let's get this beauty in the oven. It'll take around 20 to 25 minutes to fully bake. The dough itself will not take very long to bake. The crust is what takes longer in this case. So all you need to do is bake it until you're happy with the color, and it will be done for sure. As soon as the bread comes out of the oven, brush with some olive oil to make it extra rich and tasty. And there you have it. That's how you make a beautiful, simple Ramadan pidesi. Or at least my version of it. It definitely looks the part. And wouldn't you agree that it's super easy to make? A quick mix, one fold, a little bit of flattening, final proof, simple decoration, a quick glaze, some seeds on top, and a quick bake. And the result is an incredibly beautiful and tasty bread. It makes for a very good effort to result ratio. But let's move on and see something that takes a little bit more effort. So as I mentioned earlier, it's exactly the same dough. It's gone through bulk fermentation and now we need to divide it. First, we'll cut it in 2 equal pieces. Then we'll take one of the pieces and cut it in 2 more pieces. The larger piece of dough will be used for the middle part of the bread, while the 2 smaller ones will make up the outside edge. After dividing, shape the dough into round balls. Flatten it out, fold the edge over the middle whilst go around in a circle until you reach point where you started. Cover up the dough balls and let them rest for 30 minutes. But we are not adding an extra 30 minutes to the fermentation time. In this recipe, we cut the bulk fermentation time down to 1.5 hours instead of 2 hours, and the dough was folded halfway through at the 45-minute mark. Okay, final shaping time. Take the larger piece of dough and flatten it out, placed on your baking paper. The 2 smaller dough balls will be rolled into long strands. To start off, take one of the dough balls, flatten it out, then fold the top edge down, then turn it 180 degrees and perform the same step on the other side. And then gently and gradually roll out to a long strand. You want them about 70 centimeters or 28 inches long. Okay, the next part is my own creation. I just wanted to see how it will turn out. I wanted to coat the strands with seeds on all sides. So one by one, I place the strands on a tray, brush them with the glaze and cover them with seeds on both sides. It's pretty cumbersome, pretty messy, and to be fair, having so many sesame seeds doesn't really improve the bread. So you can do this if you want to, but you can also skip it. The shaping method won't change if you remove this extra step. So if you skip the previous step and don't coat the strands with seeds, you'd simply roll them out and then move on to doing this. Lay them down side by side and then twist them together. The best way to do it is by starting off in the middle and then working your way out. So first cross them over into an X shape and then twist them together until you reach either end, and you'll end up with a beautiful rope. Now take that rope and lay it around the edge of the dough disc and then connect the 2 ends together. Right, this is looking good. Now let's quickly clean down and move on to final fermentation. And just as before, the final proof took around 45 minutes. So cover up the dough, let it rise until it's nice and puffy, and then we can move on to the final shaping. Take the remaining glaze, brush it over the flat part of dough in the middle, but this time we'll use our dough scraper to create the pattern in the middle. And of course you could do this for the other recipe as well. It will make the lines slightly sharper and more precise, but it's just nice to do it with your fingers too. Right, sprinkle some seeds in the middle too, and then let's finally get this thing in the oven. It will also take around 20 to 25 minutes to fully bake. The same idea applies here. Once you're happy with the color of the crust, it's ready. And then once it's ready, pull it out of the oven and brush it with some olive oil. And that is how you make a more intricate version of the other bread. I did make it unnecessarily complicated by coating the strands with seeds completely, but it was an interesting experiment for me. So which one will you make and why? And have you made something like this already? Let me know down in the comments. If you want more delicious flatbread recipes, head over to the Flatbread playlist. You can find playlists for pretty much any type of bread on my channel. Don't forget that you can get early access videos by clicking the join button. You can find all the things that I use in my Amazon shop, link down below. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one.